Yo, welcome in everybody. Vanguard is out and I am hyped. Today we're going over the pro settings for Vanguard. There's a lot of weird settings in this game, so I was scanning through all the pro streams. So we're talking FOVs, aim assist, sensitivities, crouching, all of these things, not to mention all the graphic settings for PC. And overall, I think we got to a really good spot for consensus on a lot of these settings and things like that. I'm sure a few things could change, but I'll update that and let you know in the comments down below if they do end up changing. So we'll just start with the settings here. I'm not gonna read off every single one because I know you guys are smart. You guys can pause the video and look at the settings that I'm using here. But all of these settings are basically the mainstream ones, and I'll talk about which ones are the most important. VSync, I think there's a lot of FPS problems with VSync. Turn that off. Frame rate limit, I personally use 150 because I have 144 hertz monitor. Capping the frame rates can help your computer overall because I'm streaming when I play. There's no problem with going with unlimited or a non-capped rate there. That's totally normal. Basically everything else is fairly normal here, nothing too crazy. I've got my lame 2060 Super right now, but one thing that I saw with packet loss here, I was looking on Twitter for some tips, is that turning off the on-demand texture streaming can help with packet loss if you're suffering with that. So I ended up turning mine off because I was having problems with it during streaming and it seemed to help. So that was nice. When you go over to quality, basically this is where you're gonna max your FPS out a little bit here and help with that overall. I turned off dynamic resolutions. That there's a lot of these things here. So you go through very low and high. Basically you turn on the ones that are gonna help in S&D with visibility and spotting your enemies at long distances. That's kind of why you have some of these things like anisotropicness. And those things that I'm keeping over at high. Shader quality and bullet impacts and those types of things you turn off. Tessellization you turn off because that'll increase your FPS a lot. But then you want the level of detail and distance ranges to help with seeing your enemies at long distance and those types of things with the level of detail. The volumetric quality lighting or level, I kind of mess with that. I kept it at medium, but I could see the argument for it being at low. Okay with either of those. And then you go down, turn off screen space, shadows, and these types of things are definitely killer for FPS. I was messing with the sunlight. Both of those were all right. I left them on, but you could probably turn them off. And then I turned off a lot of these cache sizes and shadow qualities and ambient lighting and those types of things. DLSS, turned that off. Basically turned off everything there. With the super resolutions here with the Fidelexifix, I don't know. With that, I just left it on balanced. I was just trying to mess with it. I felt like that was the best overall. And it seemed like that's what the pros were rocking with as well. And anti-aliasing, turn that off. Depth of field, gotta turn that thing off, bro. It is so annoying with having that on. And every pro has that off because that is insane. And then you max out that VRAM's usage to get best FPS. Field of view. All right, so now we're here. FOV. So basically, I would say about 90% of pros are on either 95 or 100 or 105. If you're going lower or higher, you're crazy. Everyone's in that range. 90, maybe even 100% of pros might be in that range. Basically, everybody that I've seen has been in the 95, 100, or 105 range. I'm at 100. I was on Cold War, I was at 95, but in this game, I feel like I was having a lot of success with 100. So it kind of comes down to personal preference in that range, 95, 100, 105. All of that is pretty reasonable and kind of depends on what you feel like you're most accurate with and have the best accuracy with those FOVs. Then when it comes down to the field of view, affected, definitely. Basically every SMG is running affected, and then main ARs maybe run independent depending on the situation. But that's kind of a personal thing. There's not really any rhyme or reason to what ARs run it and which ones don't. It just comes down to personal preference on that. So you might have to experiment with that a little bit especially if you're an AR. And then it comes down to camera movement and all the motion blurs. Turn that crap off. It's terrible. And every pro has all of these down and has camera movement down as low as it can go. And then reflex latency, I have it on. I guess I don't really know if the boost helps. It seems like pros, some had them on, some didn't. Experiment with it if it helps you or not. So audio, I think you guys are smart. You guys know how audio works. Headphones is nice and turning that stuff on. Nothing too crazy there, mixed with just help yourself identify stuff and search and destroy a little bit better overall. Besides that, you go down to controller and this is where you get a lot of the juice. Sensitivities, I'm sure you guys have seen plenty of videos on sensitivity in the past, but the majority of pros, the far majority of pros play on 6611. Some play on 7.7, and then you might see them lower their actual ADS multiplier down to a 0.85 or a 0.8 or a 0.75 or a 0.85. Somewhere in there, and that's overall solid. But the majority of pros, majority of SMGs, Scump, any of these guys, they play on 6611 with their sensitivities, and all of them are right in that range. If you're an AR, I could definitely see like a 5511 like that, but most people are playing on 6611, or if you're an AR, you could lower that ADS sensitivity even lower and play on like a 66.8 or something like that, 0.75, something like that if you're a main AR. Basically, all the pros use dynamic at this point. Very few of them use standard. I don't think any pro uses linear. I would say it's like 95% of pros use dynamic. And then you get down to like the weapon fire threshold, turn that crap off. I don't even know what why would I want this? This is a new setting in Vanguard. Like, why would I want my guns to react differently? No. Competitively, I'm sure it's like a campaign thing probably, but like competitively or like in multiplayer, there is no reason to have that on, so turn that off. And then basically everything else is pretty basic. Your controller layouts are all how you want it to be. And then you get down to the input dead zones. Obviously, at this point, I'd imagine most of you guys know these things, but you want these things as low as possible, the input dead zones for triggers and for your sticks. So if you have like a new controller, you could probably turn these things down to like 0 or 1. My controller's now like over a year old, so I do need to mess with it a little bit. But I have my trigger inputs at 5, and that makes sure that it's not just spraying bullets without me pressing it. And then same thing with the stick inputs. You're just trying to avoid drift or stick drift. Get this thing as low as you can go without your screen moving, without you moving the stick, and you're in a good spot. So now, aim assist. It's somewhat split on what pros are using between default and Black Ops. I like Black Ops overall, but I know some pros use default. So you might have to give each of them a go, see which one you like better. But there isn't an overall, or maybe find your favorite pro and then decide what he's doing. But it's pretty split between the pros on Black Ops and default. But personally, I like Black Ops. The mantling, so you gotta press square on the mantling here. There's a little bit of debate between the pros. I know Shotzi was kind of going back and forth on this, and Simp was going back and forth on this between ground mantling off and not. I prefer it off because I feel like it messes a little bit with the slide canceling at times, especially near edges. If you're okay with just pressing the jump button again when you're mantling, then turn it off overall, and that'll hopefully smooth out the movement a little bit for you with the slide cancels, especially around the edges of maps or near mantles and things like that. Shotzi has his on partial. I know some people turned it all the way off, but I think overall it's nice to have it on partial. I think it works pretty well, and I preferred partial as well when experimenting with it too. So ATS, right now pros are playing with ATS, and it seems like a lot of the pros are okay with it so far. And hopefully it doesn't get GA'd because I like my thumbs. I like my controllers not to be broken. Sprint cancels reload, most have it on, some have it off, but that's kind of a personal preference. I prefer it on. So slide behavior is gotta be on tap because it's an absolute must to slide cancel effectively or the right way. You gotta have it on tap, so make sure you turn that on. That's one of the most important ones. And then you're basically getting to all of these things are pretty basic, and then you're rocking and rolling. That's it for the settings. So I hope you guys enjoyed that video. I just put out a video of the best pro loadouts doing the same thing, going to their streams, looking at everything. You can go check out that video as well. But I appreciate you guys for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, share the video if you guys really enjoyed it. I appreciate you guys. I'm trying to do this full time, and I can't do that without you guys, so I really, really do appreciate it. As always, guys, I'm your boy SalvationsElite, and we'll see you next time. I'm out.